You are listening to the Holistic Hormone Podcast, the place for answers when your doctor says everything looks fine, but you know something's not right. Hi, I'm Dr. Eleanor Duelley. I'm a naturopathic doctor and board-certified nutritionist with nearly a decade of experience helping women heal naturally without medications. I run the tests that most doctors don't, and I find what others miss in your blood work. This podcast is where I share what I see every day in my holistic hormone practice so more women can feel validated, informed, and empowered to take charge of their own health. This podcast is for educational purposes only. I don't treat, diagnose, or prescribe, but I do believe that your body can heal itself when it has the right support. Now, let's get into today's topic. Welcome back, everybody, to the Holistic Hormone Podcast. My name is Dr. Eleanor Duelley, and I'm so glad that you're here and that you're joining me. I am starting season 5 of the Holistic Hormone Podcast, and whether you've been with me from the very beginning or you're just starting to tune in, this space is all about helping women, especially those in their 40s and 50s, like me, helping us to make sense of our symptoms and to get answers through functional testing and to understand what's going in their bodies so that they can feel like themselves again. Since the last season, my life has been very full. I became a board-certified naturopathic doctor upon completing my traditional naturopathy training, which has deepened my ability to serve the women that I've worked with. My practice has grown into a full-time calling, which I'm so blessed and grateful for. And I've had the honor to work with so many women and incredible clients who have felt dismissed, overlooked, or just been told that everything looks fine, but they knew something was off. Also, I've started integrating peptides. This has been a game changer, not just for my clients, but also for me personally. I've experienced the actual power in these peptides in healing my own body with better energy, cleaner thinking, and even 37 pounds of weight I've lost. And this time, it actually feels sustainable because it's not a diet, it's not a program, it's a supportive tool that I'm using in conjunction with a lot of other things that were already naturally in place. So this podcast is my way of giving back, of sharing what I'm learning as I'm going and what's working, what's possible for you, and to kind of stop with the gaslighting of what's going on when you go to the doctor and they tell you everything's fine, come back when you're sicker. That really frustrates me and is one of the reasons I opened this practice, because I want to give women a place to speak about their symptoms, to actually feel validated in what they're feeling so that we can get to the bottom of what's going on. And that's what we're talking about today. It's feeling dismissed. You know that feeling that you get in the pit of your stomach when you finally realized that the person that you're seeking answers from has basically written you off and said, that's enough questions, that's enough inquiry, you don't need to know anymore. Feeling needy at the doctor's office is not a fun place to be, and I've been there myself, and I still do when I take my children in or have my own questions about my health and medications. We walk in bright-eyed and really expecting the answers to our problems to be unfolded in the blood work or the testing or the allergy testing or whatever we've been in there for. We're expected to be presented with an empathetic and caring and skilled interpretation of our blood work. And usually how it goes is nothing's here. You're in range. Nothing's wrong. Do you want to talk about antidepressants maybe? And that was like when that loud whomp really went off in my brain, that I realized I am not the crazy one here. I know what my experience is. And even if you don't take it seriously, if you're not validating of it, there is something going on, and I am not going to stop until I figure out what it is. The truth hit me so hard. I was like, ready to go back to school, figure it out, open a practice, and help women with this exact thing. So I hope that this episode is helpful for you to kind of break down a little bit of the walls that maybe have been put up, or if you felt shut down by asking questions about your blood work. If you have problems with your period, your hormones, gut testing, and you ask what is in it, and they tell you a few things are high, a few things are low, but you're fine. I've heard clients come in and tell me that their doctors have told them your labs are fine, and the client says, but I'm really exhausted, and they'll say, well, go take a nap. The doctor might say, well, your thyroid numbers look fine, so that can't be it. I even had a client come in telling me that she had periodic joint pain, and the doctor said that couldn't possibly have anything to do with her hormones, her cycle, or her detox, which we found out was the case, actually. So I'm here to tell you, you are not crazy. You are just not really getting the complete picture. And today I'm going to show you what you're missing. So let's dive into what your typical blood panel will look like. If you go in for your annual visit, whether that's to the gynecologist, your PCP, they're going to want to run labs, which can be exciting if you're like, okay, great, I want to see if everything's okay. So they typically run what's called a CBC, or complete blood panel, a CMP, complete metabolic panel, or comprehensive metabolic panel. Sometimes they'll run 1, maybe 2 thyroid markers, TSH and T4, a basic lipid panel, glucose, and vitamin D, but vitamin D is really something you'd have to push for. So these labs specifically are designated to rule out disease, which is awesome because we want to rule out disease. This is not something, you want to mess around with. You want to find out what's going on in the body. But these labs are not designed to uncover imbalances that will lead to disease. So basically, if you are sick enough to be seen in the labs, to get the medications, the surgeries, whatever the recommendations are, then that's what we're looking for. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong, okay? And I just want you to think through that for a minute, because I'm not here to point out what's wrong. I'm here to show you that if the status quo stays as is, then eventually you will be in that disease zone. You will be in a place where your body is breaking down, or the systems aren't working well, or disease comes up. So the smarter, work smarter, not harder, is telling us, let's live preventatively now. The problem is most of us don't know what that looks like, and that's what I do. So those are the typical labs. So I'm going to break those down. So CBC, complete blood panel with differentials. So you might see CBC without differentials, but the differentials are actually super duper important, because what the doctor looks for is activated white blood cells would say that your immune system is activated. So they're looking for a sinus infection, vaginal infection anywhere else in the body. So potentially looking for infection to treat with antibiotics. That's sort of the give and take of that marker. What I look for in the CBC with differentials is early signs of nutritional deficiencies like iron, B12, or folate. I look for immune stress, like is your immune system activated from things that could be things that could infect your body, like mold, fungus, parasites. Something is activating the system, and we have to do our detective work to figure out what that is. Because if we don't figure out what that is, it means it will progress to a disease state. So I use functional ranges to catch these patterns early. Now, functional ranges look different than conventional ranges. When you get your printout from the lab or from your doctor's portal, usually it has the ranges on the right, and it'll say high or low, okay? Those ranges are really wide. And they're based on statistical averages of how many people have got this blood work done in their lab. Okay, so think about that for a second. Do you want to be compared to the average person that's getting their blood work done, that walks into your Quest or your LabCorp or your, Walmart, wherever you're getting your blood work? Do you want your health numbers to be compared to theirs? Because that's what those ranges are based on. Okay, I don't give a hoot what the statistical average is. I'm looking for the actual function in the cell, in the body, and in the organ. So that's why my ranges look different. Okay, comprehensive metabolic panel is the CMP. Now, what your doctor is looking for is really high liver enzymes, because obviously super important to rule out fatty liver disease, liver congestion, things breaking down in your detox pathways, causing backup and more infection. Kidney function, your kidneys are evaluated in this. They're filtering the body and the blood and making urine. And glucose issues, because they measure glucose to see if it's high or low. And then they can prescribe things like metformin if they're high. The issue I have with this is the glucose marker is really useless unless you can connect it to insulin and hemoglobin A1C. Hemoglobin A1C is a glucose marker over the last 3 months. This is much more valuable to somebody who's thinking through your metabolic health, because your glucose can raise or drop basically at the drop of a hat. If you eat a cupcake, it's going to skyrocket. It's supposed to, because glucose comes from sugar, from carbohydrates that dumps glucose into the bloodstream, and then the pancreatic response is to make insulin so that you can use that glucose as energy. Super important to measure. In fact, it's the foundation of this entire blood work panel. If I could only do 3 markers, it would be insulin, hemoglobin A1C, and I would say glucose, but that one's kind of irrelevant depending on what you ate yesterday or the day before. So the reason I'm breaking this down for you is because I'm looking for subtle signs of liver congestion, of adrenal stress, because I can check your electrolytes and see if your body is like burning through these electrolytes, not just whether you're hydrated or not. But I'm looking for blood sugar dysfunction, okay? I'm looking for the body trying to compensate for these imbalances, because that is the beginning stages of getting to a pre-diabetic state. Feeling foggy, feeling tired, feeling wired, not being able to sleep. These can all be found and validated in the CMP. And the cool part is you can correct them with the right supplements or the right nutritional guidance. Next part, super important, thyroid panel. Most doctors look for high or low TSH and maybe T4. Okay, because there's prescriptions that will alter those numbers. You could get levothyroxine. You could get a referral out to an endocrinologist. They usually don't test antibodies, which is how the body is responding to something that is some sort of toxin. I look at a full thyroid panel. So I look at over 10 markers that tell me not just are the thyroid hormones being made well in the right amounts, are they being utilized well, are they going into the organ with the right minerals and nutrients to make the conversion from T4 to T3. Now your body makes T4. Your thyroid actually makes T4, but it's an inactive hormone. It's inactive. Your body can't use it. It has to go through the liver with things like vitamin D, iron, selenium, protein, and the liver actually realizes if your body needs T3 for energy or if it needs T3 for healing. And so it holds back a certain amount of T3, which is your active or usable thyroid hormone. So if reverse T3, RT3 is high, then that tells us that it's not a liver problem. It's actually an inflammation problem. So if you see numbers are high or low, it doesn't necessarily point exactly to, oh, there's a thyroid imbalance, because this isn't even about the thyroid. When we're looking at reverse T3 versus T3 and energy and cellular availability to accept T3. So the point is that symptoms that can be explained, like fatigue, weight gain, hair thinning. Some people say that the outside of their eyebrows start to diminish. That's another little clinical pearl from my days in school, in grad school as a nutritionist. Mood swings, just feeling off. A lot of women can't describe what it feels like in specific terms. I try to help them as much as I can, but sometimes we just feel off. And if we're not looking at the whole picture, we're not looking at all of these markers and understanding how they apply and what they mean, then we're missing all of this information that is pertinent to us, simply because whoever's reading the blood work isn't analyzing it well, or they just don't have the experience in analyzing blood work. The next part of the panel, the lipid panel. So most of you are familiar with this because people will come in and say, my cholesterol is high. My LDLs are high, my triglycerides are high. Doctors are looking for high because they can medicate high with statins. They can physically alter. If your body makes all this stuff, they can prevent your body from making the stuff. But my question is, if your body's making cholesterol, it has a purpose. It doesn't just make it for no reason. It makes it for a purpose. So wouldn't it be more valuable to find out the purpose of making all of this cholesterol rather than just cutting down what you're making without figuring out why? So what I'm looking for when I see low cholesterol or high cholesterol, depending on the situation, people don't realize that their hormones are made out of cholesterol. So if your cholesterol is elevated, especially as a woman in her 40s and 50s, that's normal if your body is trying to compensate for the drop in estrogen that is happening when a woman approaches menopause. Okay? So your ovaries stop making as much estrogen as they used to. Your body has to adjust to that. And so the body makes cholesterol to try to help with that extra estrogen that is needed to be made, but no longer being made by the ovaries. So it makes sense that the cholesterol is elevated. And to go in and to chop that in half, you're basically telling your body that I know you need estrogen, but I'm not going to give you the means to make it. In fact, I'm going to cut in half what you're actually making in order to support me. That's very stressful on the system, and metabolically does not make sense to do that. Now, of course, there's a time and a place for statins, and I am not a medical doctor. I've never been a medical doctor. I'm never going to be a medical doctor. So I don't prescribe, diagnose. I just explain. I explain blood work. I explain medications. If a medical doctor deems it necessary for you to be on a statin because your cholesterol is so elevated that it's blocking other pathways, then that absolutely trumps this, okay? But just as a general recommendation of lowering cholesterol without understanding why is problematic, especially when we're talking about hormone balance. And don't forget, estrogen is not the only hormone. We have thousands of hormones. We have testosterone, we have cortisol, we have all kinds of hormones that are needing to be created. Our fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D have to be created from cholesterol or omega-3 fatty acids. So it's important to know what the cholesterol is doing. And if I see cholesterol low, it tells me that the body probably is not getting enough nutrition and not enough healthy fats to support making enough cholesterol. And you can see downstream, that would mean that your body doesn't have enough to make the hormones. So if someone comes in with low hormones and we don't know what's going on with the cholesterol picture, we're basically shooting in the dark to see whether their body's going to naturally find that balance in making enough estrogen. A woman still needs estrogen during and after menopause. It's just not coming from the ovaries anymore. So we have to understand why and how the body is adapting to regular things in our daily life. And the blood work is really the key in doing that. Now, this is my favorite part. The fasting glucose, insulin, and hemoglobin A1C. I mentioned it earlier, but it is the foundation of all health, of all metabolic health in your body. Doctors take this very seriously because they can medicate high hemoglobin A1C and high insulin. And that's fantastic, because if those are high and your body is trying to figure out how to use glucose and insulin, that has to be the priority, 100%. But if it is high because of a consistent chronic disregard for nutrition, moving your body, sleeping well, eating well, pooping well, hydrating, if you're not doing any of those things, then your body is having a natural reaction, which is high numbers, alarming numbers, to try to compensate. And those medications will bring down those numbers in a way that will safely keep you out of danger. But as a chronic, continual outcome, I would hope you would want to metabolically heal those things and come off the medication when it's safe. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that the nourishment is appropriate. Are you getting the right amounts? Do you understand how blood sugar works? Why it spikes? Should it spike? How the insulin response is crucial in understanding this balance. Now, the biggest piece that people are interested in when it comes to this is if there's excess glucose and there's excess insulin, the body will store that as fat. Yes, this is where the weight gain comes into the metabolic picture. Of course, it matters what we eat. Okay, we want to eat healthy foods. We want to eat lean meats. If you're vegetarian or vegan, we want to get you healthy proteins, of course. Okay, every woman that walks into my clinic doesn't generally have a problem with knowing what junk food is and what healthy foods are. As a nutritionist by trade, that is sort of always running in the background of what are you eating? What is your body using? But if you're eating a healthy diet, if you have a basic understanding of macronutrients, if you are working out and you're not seeing your weight move, if you're not seeing your body fat move, I was stuck in this fat storage mode for years. I was working out, I was meticulously eating, and the longer the period of not losing weight became, the more meticulous I came about calories. And I'm here to tell you that is not the reason you're not losing weight. Okay, the reason if you have insulin resistance means that the balance between your glucose and insulin is not balanced, and the body's trying to balance it. And it does that by defaulting to extra storage as fat. So if you're struggling with that, reach out to me. I've created a program specifically designed to understand glucose and insulin and provide the resources to get those balanced naturally and to get that weight moving. Okay, little bit of a tangent there. The last couple markers I'm going to touch on. The iron panel, super important. Doctors are looking for anemia because if you have severe anemia, that's a big problem. Your red blood cells need oxygen, and that's what iron brings to the table. So if your iron is low, then you're going to be extremely fatigued. You might pass out. You might have regulation issues with your heart rate. What I'm looking for specifically, obviously I want to see if your iron is adequate. I want to see if your storage or ferritin is adequate. Because if you have normal serum iron, but your stores are low, then that means you're running on your stores. And that means those stores are going to eventually run out, and your serum iron is going to drop, which will put you in an anemic state. It's also important to understand that these numbers can look skewed based on inflammation. So if your serum iron is fine, but your binding capacity or TIBC, if those markers are off, that can tell us that you're kind of hiding a deficiency. So there's a lot of nuance to blood work that I think gets missed when we're looking for numbers. I look at the whole picture, I look at the whole panel. Usually it boils down to what is inflaming your body, because that inflammation is throwing off a lot of things. A lot of times with the women I see, it's that insulin glucose. So I'm gonna do a whole episode on that at some point, if that has intrigued you. But just to kind of keep it in the framework of this podcast, the panel needs to be looked at comprehensively. I can give you an example. A client came to me completely exhausted, and her OB ran some labs. Her serum iron was normal. Her binding capacity or TIBC was fine. No red flags. She got offered an antidepressant and told her to, make her schedule a little bit easier. Seriously, that's what she was told. I tested for ferritin, and I saw her ferritin was 13. Okay? Healthy ferritin is about 80. It's not just low, it's barely functioning, and it means that it's compensating for that serum iron. So ferritin is like the storage tank. And when that gets depleted, you're gonna feel things like fatigue, hair loss, restless leg, brain fog. But the client was basically escorted out, being told that she's fine. But she knew that she wasn't. So I created a protocol based on that low ferritin to gently support not just what she was consuming in the form of iron, which, by the way, is not always a supplement. In grad school, we're taught bioavailability, which means food first. Understand what foods have iron in them and incorporate them into your daily life. Also, are you absorbing that iron? There's many other markers that can tell us how your absorption is happening with iron, with zinc, with folate, with nutrients that we need for other processes in the body. I don't wait until things are broken or ready to break in the body metabolically. I listen when I see these small whispers. I listen very intently to the symptoms. What are you saying? What are you experiencing? Because that's going to tell me a lot more than these numbers. But when I put them together for clients, what I do in my practice is I get the blood work from the lab and I extract the numbers, I put them into my own spreadsheet with my own color coding of functional highs and lows. So right off the bat, when you look at it, it looks different. It tells you what things are little beige flags, what things are red flags, and how I'm going to weave this together. Then I create a video for you with your labs on the screen and a PowerPoint that tells you exactly what each of the markers mean, what the functional ranges look like, and why it's important, why it is matched to your symptoms, and the best part is what we're gonna do about it. What are we gonna do about it? We need to prioritize what to do first. So many times we go off on a tangent thinking, I have that symptom, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to fix that symptom. But we end up chasing our tail because that symptom is not actually the problem. It's the check engine light, right? We can always put a little piece of tape over the check engine light and just pretend it's not there if we don't look at it. But if we actually go in, open the hood, look at the engine, or have somebody help us. Tell me what this is. Tell me how this engine works. Tell me what's supposed to be connected to it. Then we can backtrack and get you to a place of homeostasis, which means balance in the body, which is what your body is trying to do every minute of every day. Your body loves balance. So You're not overreacting. You are not broken or diseased. You are not the diagnosis that you have been told that you are. I don't really believe in labeling people that way, because I believe that with the right resources and tools and nourishment and love and education, that we can improve the way the systems in the body work naturally. That's why I use these labs to empower women to see what other people have missed and validate their experience. In the next episode, we're going to dive into the specific blood markers that every woman in her 40s and 50s should know, and understand what optimal looks like and why it's important. Thanks for listening today, guys. Your hormones aren't broken and you are not crazy. I'm here to tell you that today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Follow the show for real talk on root causes and a whole lot of hope and empowerment. And please come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm at holistic.hormone.specialist, and you can find me on Facebook and my YouTube channel. Please subscribe, please share this episode, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Holistic Hormone Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the content I shared today. I created this podcast as a way to provide you with my insights on all things holistic, from hormones to blood sugar regulation and everything in between. I work with women every day navigating these exact issues, and if anything in this episode resonated with you, I'd love to stay connected. Just as a reminder, I'm a naturopathic doctor and board-certified nutritionist. I am not a medical doctor. Everything I shared here today is for educational purposes only and not intended to diagnose, treat, or prescribe. You can follow me on Instagram at holistic.hormone.specialist. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Eleanor Duelley, and sign up for my weekly email list at www.eleanorduelley.com for holistic tools, insights, and encouragement. And if you'd like to chat one-on-one about your unique health concerns, you can always book a free consult with me and connect through my website. Take care of your body. It's talking to you. I'll see you next time.